Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0 and we are back in new fanfic. What if Hinata proposed to Sasuke instead of Naruto Part 1? 4 years had passed since Sasuke Uchiha returned to Konoha, a village he had once abandoned for the sake of vengeance. For most, 4 years might have sufficed to rebuild trust, but Sasuke was not most people. Though pardoned by the Konoha Council after serving a 3-year sentence, whispers followed him everywhere. Tales of a rogue shinobi resembling the infamous Uchiha, brutalizing enemies across the land of fire, only deepened the unease people felt around him. He walked the streets as a shadow, respected but feared, present but never truly belonging. To the council, however, his rehabilitation was incomplete. His loyalty to Konoha could only be sealed with a final act, marriage. Specifically, to a Konoha woman. Ridiculous, Sasuke thought bitterly. The very idea of tying himself to someone for the sake of appearances was laughable. And yet, the alternative, a lifetime of being treated as an outsider, was no more appealing. He drained the last of his second sake bottle, seated alone on the small balcony of his apartment. Moonlight danced over the rooftops of Konoha, casting a serene glow over the village he had once nearly destroyed. The cool night breeze rustled the trees and kissed his skin, but even the tranquility of the evening couldn't ease his frustration. Women, he thought with a grimace. The word alone made him wince. He could already imagine the flurry of fanatical kunoichi clamoring to be his bride, each more unbearable than the last. Even Sakura, the one woman who had been a constant presence in his life, wasn't an option. She was loyal, determined, qualities he respected, but she had always been a companion to him, never anything more. He reached for a third bottle of sake, craving its numbing warmth, when a soft creak broke the silence. Sasuke froze, every muscle in his body tensing as he heard the unmistakable sound of his apartment door slowly opening. Instinctively, he shot to his feet, his Sharingan activating in an instant. With a single sharp motion, he yanked the door open, prepared to strike. What he wasn't prepared for was the figure that tumbled through the doorway and collided with him, sending them both crashing to the floor. Sasuke groaned as he hit the ground, a soft, unfamiliar weight pressing down on his chest. His Sharingan flared, scanning for danger, but all he could see was a cascade of long, violet hair spilling over his face. A girl, he thought, bewildered. No, a woman. He sat up abruptly, pushing her off him, and finally met the wide, pearly eyes staring back at him. Recognition flickered in his mind. Hyuga, he muttered, his voice laced with irritation and confusion. The woman, Hinata, he now realized, scrambled to her knees, her cheeks flushed a deep crimson. Anyo, Uchiha-san, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Sasuke was bewildered. Out of nowhere, a pale and flustered Hyuga woman with a cascade of violet hair and blushing cheeks had broken into his apartment in the dead of night, collided with him, sent them both sprawling to the floor, and now had the audacity to apologize as if that would somehow justify the chaos she'd caused. To say the Uchiha was angry would be an understatement. His jaw clenched as he stared down at the woman who had so thoroughly disrupted his solitude. He didn't know whether to throw her out immediately or lash out at her for destroying his fragile peace. Who the hell are you? And how dare you break into my apartment and attack me? He growled, his voice a deadly calm. No, Uchiha-san. Hinata stammered, her voice trembling. I didn't mean to attack you, I. She cursed her inability to stop blushing. It was impossible not to. Not only had she barged in uninvited, but the situation couldn't have been more compromising. She was still sitting in his lap, her hands pressed against his chest, with Sasuke glaring down at her. His face was far too close, his warm breath brushing against her flushed skin, while her chilled body seemed to draw in his heat instinctively. Comfortable, aren't we, Hyuga? Sasuke sneered, a sharp edge to his voice. Or should I make you more comfortable? Hinata's face turned an even deeper shade of crimson, and she scrambled to her feet, stammering a series of hurried apologies. But her efforts only seemed to annoy him further. Sasuke rose slowly, exuding a deadly aura that filled the room, his dark eyes burning with cold fury. He stepped toward her, forcing Hinata to take a step back until her spine pressed against the wall. She swallowed hard, knowing she had no escape and no choice but to face his wrath. "Give me one good reason not to kill you, Hyuga," he said, his voice like ice, cutting through the tension. "Aye, Uchiha-san. 5 seconds," he snapped, his patience already wearing thin. "Speak. Or get out." Hinata's heart raced as panic set in. She clenched her fists, her mind scrambling for the right words, but nothing came. The weight of his gaze bore down on her, freezing her in place. 4. Aye. 3. Uchiha-san, please. 2. Wait. Aye. Sasuke's Sharingan flared, the swirling red a clear warning. "Stop stuttering and wasting my time unless you want yourself dead." Hinata's fists clenched, her frustration bubbling over. Why was he so infuriating? Why was she even here, putting herself through this? Enough was enough. 1. With her face redder than a ripe tomato, she screamed at the top of her lungs, cutting him off. "Will you marry me, Uchiha?" An hour ago, in the gloomy corridors of the enormous Hyuga mansion, the sounds of the trees bounced when they hit the windows of the room. She opened her eyes a little, looking for her clock, confirming that it was midnight. She decided to continue curled up, however, a vague memory flashed in her head: "This is my last chance to escape." Dressed in clean clothes, she brushed her long, thick dark hair carefully, to avoid making too much noise so that no one would discover her sneaky. She took a small bag and left the mansion with the utmost caution, being aware that it would not be so easy for her to outwit a family of ninjas par excellence. It relieved her that she knew the path she had to follow so that she would not be caught in her little escape from the mansion. Hinata quickly reached the Konoha outskirts. She used her Byakugan to find her destination and also to prevent anyone from spotting her. After a tedious search, she finally found her destination. The Uchiha's heiress knew what would happen if any of her friends or villagers see her going to the last Uchiha's apartment at an unusual hour. Further, she did not know what would be Sasuke's reaction on seeing her in his home. Although she had grown out of her nervousness, but the thought of the Sharingan wielder invoked her old habits of nervousness and stutter. She mentally cursed herself and took a deep breath. He was her last chance and she wouldn't miss it for anything in the world. Flashback. Hinata was summoned by her father for discussing some official matters. She knew that this has something to do with her coming of age. She mentally dreaded for not being able to succeed in the quest. Hyuga Hiyashi had given her 2 years to find an eligible suitor for herself so that she could escape the caged seal and the humiliation of not being the heiress to the clan. Her father was kind enough to give her this freedom, but if she didn't find a man by the end of 2 years, she would be betrothed to someone outside Konoha. Naturally, Hinata didn't want this. She didn't want to leave Konoha, her friends, Hanabi, and become some foreigner's wife. Caged seal was much better than marrying outside Konoha. But then, she remembered her mother's wish. She promised her mother that she would not allow Hanabi or herself to be sealed. The only option was marrying someone of the same status as the Hyuga from Konoha. Throughout these 2 years, she couldn't find anyone. Kiba and Shino were her best friends. Neji ni her cousin. Shikamaru was with Tamari. Lee or sire, even Naruto can't be tied to a powerful clan like hers. Naruto. That name itself was painful to her. She knows that he would help her if she spoke about her dilemma, but she didn't want to do only him. But even Shino or Kiba would have married her, but she couldn't be selfish enough to ask them only for her benefit. Hinata sighed. Nothing. No more options left now. Daughter, after 6 months the time I gave you will end, Hiyashi spoke with a stern voice. Yes, father. She merely bowed her head. As expected, you haven't found an eligible suitor. Hence after 6 months you will be engaged to a rich feudal lord's son from the land of fire. Father, please give me some time, Hinata pleaded. She didn't want this. 6 months only, Hinata. After that everything will happen like planned if you don't present an eligible suitor. Hiyashi pitied his daughter, but he had no choice. After all, she was the eldest and still she failed to become a powerful clan leader. He knew Hinata would never escape from her fate, but still he wished to give her time because he still cared for her well-being, although he didn't want anyone to know about it. The Hyuga head slowly walked towards the door, leaving Hinata alone. 6 months. Kami-sama, help me. The poor girl started weeping, thinking about her situation. Nothing could save her from her fate. She knew her father was trying, but as the head of the clan, even he had his limitations. It was then something struck in her mind. She had not thought about him. It all then built a hope in her heart. Uchiha Sasuke. He was from one of the most prestigious clan, just like the Hyuga, royal by blood, a strong shinobi who was feared by everyone, certainly a potential suitor for the Hyuga clan's heiress. If she could convince him, then he would solve all her problems. A faint smile etched on the teary face of the pearl-eyed girl. Yes, Uchiha Sasuke must be the key to her all problems. The princess walked into the fearsome Uchiha's apartment, and with all the courage left in her, she opened the door, counting on the only hope she had now. Hello readers. Thank you for the positive comments. Please ignore the typing errors. I was in a hurry to post this chapter. I will update surely, and this story is not gonna be abandoned. Next updates will be slow because I will be busy. Guys, do post your reviews on this chapter. And surely tell how would Sasuke react to Hinata's proposal. With love, Elsa. Sasuke stood there with his mouth hung open and eyes bulged out. Surely it must be the sake. He cursed himself for drinking too. Entire body went numb when he heard what the Hyuga screamed. For a moment he thought he had lost his senses. A weird girl created all this ruckus at midnight to propose him. It then clicked to him, she must be a crazy fangirl. But she looked too familiar to him. Are you some fangirl? Stalker. Get out before I strangle you to death. Uchiha-san, I am neither of them. You must remember me. I'm Hyuga Hinata. We were in the same academy. Dobi stalker. Sasuke mocked at her. What? Weren't you that weird skinny girl who was all over that idiot Naruto? Embarrassed, Hinata covered her face with her hands. Was she that desperate, back then, that everybody noticed her? That was in the past, Uchiha-san. So did the Dobi reject you? Has nothing to do with Naruto-kun. So you came here to confess your undying love for me? Sasuke grabbed the bottle to drink sake. This girl was ruining his peace of mind. I don't have any feelings for Uchiha-san. Then what was this? Time pass. You stupid woman. Please listen to me, Uchiha-san. We both can get benefited if this alliance works. Sasuke was suspicious about her. She didn't look drunk or insane. Why the hell would she be so desperate for an alliance with him? Then, start explaining, Hyuga. My father is setting a marriage alliance for me with a feudal lord's son from the land of fire. He had given me 2 years' time for finding an ideal suitor. The time period is about to end. That's the reason for my request. What the hell is wrong? Do you need my permission to marry him? Hinata breathed in to calm herself. This man was surely testing her patience. What more could she expect from him? Uchiha-san, I want to marry you. By doing so I will not be sent far away and can stay in Konoha. I don't want to separate from my sister. It's the last thing I want to do. Ask that stupid Dobi, do I look like Naruto to you? I'm not blind. If I asked Naruto-kun he would have married me, but that would make me selfish. He will not benefit anything from marrying me. You think I will be benefited by marrying you? Dream on. Hinata was annoyed with all the taunts and remarks from Sasuke. She had no choice but to tolerate because she was the one here in need of help. Don't why you remember the council's decision. Unless you marry a woman from Konoha you wouldn't be trusted. Sasuke bit his tongue to control his anger. How dare you mock at me in my house? No Uchiha-san. I'm merely stating the facts. If you marry me, you will be getting the approval of the council because Hyuga is the most influential clan in Konoha. I'm not a beggar. I don't want your pity. You shut your mouth and get out. Uchiha-san please, I'm not pitying you. We both need this marriage as a escape from our problems. Please think carefully, we both can pull this off. Although Sasuke had a urge to decline this, he couldn't help but think about what the Hyuga girl said. The proposal was too tempting to refuse but still he couldn't fully trust her intentions. Hinata felt Sasuke stare at her intensely. She felt like he was trying to know her true intentions. It made her shift her eyes uncomfortably. But she was happy that Sasuke didn't refuse it immediately, instead took his time to understand her proposal. She bit her lip and crossed her fingers hoping for a positive response. Hyuga, your proposal is clever enough to make me accept this but still there isn't a reason for me to trust you. When have I given a reason for you to not trust me, Uchiha-san? Hinata asked boldly. So this girl can talk back. Uchiha-san, I'm from a honorable clan. I don't have any reason to use you. Believe me, do I look like one of your fangirls? Sasuke chuckled at her. She sure was interesting. So the kitten has claws, huh? Hinata blushed bright red. Kitten. On the contrary, it would be an amazing sight to see the prestigious Hyuga heiress as my fangirl showering chocolates and roses on me. Blushing red like a tomato, Hinata gasped slightly after interpreting his words. His fangirl. Me. I see you already imagined that. Like the idea. NNOU Uchiha SSN, IW wouldn't. Hinata was so embarrassed that she wanted to run away from his sight. On the contrary, Sasuke enjoyed teasing the blue-haired woman. He thought that accepting the proposal won't be a bad idea but still being a Uchiha, he simply can't accept her proposal that easily. Hyuga, let's get to the matter. I will accept the proposal only on certain conditions. Hinata smiled widely hearing Sasuke's positive response. Uchiha-san, thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me. Quote, easy there Hyuga. First, this agreement shall stay between us only. Second, you will not interfere in my private business. Third, behave properly and be true to your words or else I will Chidori you. Sasuke didn't want anyone to know, especially Naruto, that it was because of the agreement with the Hyuga that he could become a ninja again. It was a matter of his pride. The princess nodded as they were all genuine conditions, although the last one meant that he didn't trust her. Still, she knew better than to mess with him. Yes, Uchiha-san, I promise all these conditions will be met. Do you have any Hyuga? Why yes. Hinata was nervous to put forward her condition although she agreed with his. What is it? I don't want anybody to know about this agreement. I want us to act as a real couple in LL love in front of my clan. No way her father was going to allow her to marry Sasuke. He was a former missing nin, S-class criminal and a traitor. His reputation wasn't good in the village. Even if it was, her father will still resent him for he is a Uchiha. If Hiashi ever knows that his daughter went to Uchiha Sasuke for asking him to marry her for convenience, then his rage will know no bounds. Sasuke smirked. This girl is going get him insane. Act like we are in love. Why yes. Hinata felt Sasuke walking towards her. What are you doing? Practice. Sasuke cornered her as he placed a hand on the wall beside her face. She didn't understand. What practice was he talking about? F for W what? PDA. Hinata blushed heavily when Sasuke cupped her cheeks. His warm hands, midnight eyes, she didn't know why but she felt her heart could burst at any moment if HHEE. Thud. Sasuke chuckled at the Hyuga princess. Well, she can't even handle this and she wants to act like a couple in love. What a insane woman. He gathered her in his arms and placed her on his bed. The pearl-eyed woman lay comfortably on his soft mattress, her cheeks still warm from what happened back to the living room. Sasuke sighed as he sat on his sofa and emptied his bottle of sake. This is going to be a very long night. Hello readers. Finally chapter 3 is over. Thank you for posting your reviews. Do post your comments about chapter 3. It will surely motivate me to write the next chapters. Guess what's gonna happen next? It will be nice reading your ideas about the story. Happy New Year guys. Well, bye. Love. Elsa. Hinata opened her eyes with great difficulty. She felt tired. Her head hurt badly, but it was nice sleeping in this soft silk-like mattress that gave off a fine masculine smell. She felt addicted to it that she curled up nicely like a ball and buried her face in the sheets inhaling the scent. Wait. WHHAAAT. Silk sheets, soft mattress, strong masculine scent, and then it clicked to her. Lengthy blue hair snapped to the side of her as she turned her enhanced eyes to meet his dark coal eyes. There in front of her was the great Uchiha Sasuke sitting in the chair beside the bed, widely grinning at her. No, mocking at her. Comfy. Hyuga. Blood rushed to her face on realizing that she slept in his bed and Sasuke saw everything she did. She mentally cursed herself for doing so. After all, she was the heiress. I didn't mean to. Yes, you didn't mean anything, but you barge into my house and sleep on my bed like a log. If anyone dared to do this, I would have gladly broken all his ribs. Hinata gulped on processing his words. She knew it was her fault, but then couldn't he be a little nicer to her? Please forgive me, Uchiha-san. Please don't cancel our agreement. You deprived 4 hours of my sleep, Hyuga. Anno, it's 5 in the morning. Do I look like a liar to you? Sasuke hissed at her, at which she flinched. A sleep-deprived Sasuke was much scarier than a drunk Sasuke. How was she supposed to deal with this now? No b, but I have to reach home before everybody wakes up. Ah. Hinata was so sleepy that she lost her balance and fell to the ground, making the jug, kept on the nightstand, empty the water on her. Just great, Hinata. TCH, what can I expect from you? Sasuke scoffed at her. Hinata got up and put the jug in place, but her clothes were completely wet. Why couldn't she watch her step? Uchiha-san, would you mind if I borrow AS's shirt? My home, my bed, and now my shirt. Hinata felt her cheeks heat up as she nervously tucked her hair behind her ear. He always had to embarrass her like this. She cursed herself for being such a klutz. Please, Uchiha-san, I promise I'll clean up the mess and leave. You think this is a hotel, where you can barge in anytime and leave anytime? No, I will make breakfast for you as a sorry for my actions, Uchiha-san. Sasuke stared at her blankly. So now will I be food poisoned, Hyuga? No, I promise, no more trouble. It better be. With that, Sasuke got up, threw a blue shirt at her and went to the bathroom while Hinata quickly changed her wet clothes. She then cleaned the mess in the room and then went to make breakfast. Toast, scrambled eggs and some tomato juice. Thanks to Sakura, Hinata knew tomatoes were the Avengers' favorites. Thinking about it, Uchiha Sasuke had always been a mystery to her. When they were younger, she could remember him being a sweet boy with a big smile. Girls flocked to him naturally because of his good looks, and Hinata was no different. While she could admit he was cute, her eyes had always been glued to the blonde outcast who had saved her from bullies all those years ago. Sasuke had never really piqued her interest while they were children. That was only amplified when the Uchiha clan had been massacred. Sasuke had, understandably, become withdrawn. His eyes lost all the light there once was, yet his aloof behavior attracted the other girls in her class. Hinata had a hard time trying to figure Uchiha's emotions, so she had dismissed him completely. Naruto was so opposite of him that it was refreshing. The sun had been in her focus for so long that it blinded her to the night. With a shake of her head, she realized that she was getting off topic. So she went on to set the table before the Avengers showed up. Sasuke dried his hair with his towel. He was still reluctant to agree to her proposal, but still this was the only way he could gain the council's trust. Surprisingly, he did not find the blue-haired woman annoying, instead he enjoyed teasing her. Brushing away all those thoughts, he walked out of his room only to find the Hyuga heir, wearing his blue shirt that almost reached till her knees, setting his table and serving food for him. Her light lavender scent filled his nostrils as she shifted to place the plates, before those pearl eyes locked onto his. His intense stare must have caught her off guard, because she fidgeted once more before bowing her head to look at him again, a light pink flush on the apples of her cheeks. Uchiha-san, please sit down, I have prepared toasts and scrambled eggs. Sasuke sat down and tasted the food. Perfect. But he had too much pride to say it aloud. Hinata bit her lips in anticipation. She wanted to know if she messed this up again. How is it? Not bad. She knew Sasuke wouldn't compliment her. Nonetheless, she was happy with his response. Uchiha-san, about the agreement. Yes, Hyuga, we have to talk to my father. I have only 6 months left. Will the old man agree to have a S-class criminal as his son-in-law? Hinata chose to ignore the way Sasuke showed no respect to her father. No, he wouldn't, but we have to make him understand that we are in a serious relationship. Sasuke smirked. Serious? And what are you expecting from me? Hinata blushed again. She hated that Sasuke could make her blush with that sly smirk of his. If there's anything that's common in both of our clans, it is ego and pride. You know how to get everything in your favor. Just use your charms here too, Uchiha-san. To say Sasuke was surprised would be an understatement. This woman had left him speechless. But he wouldn't show it. Hyuga, I didn't know your father was a fan of my charms. Sasuke smirked at her as he finished his tomato juice. Those pearl-like eyes widened to saucers, as her mouth dropped in surprise. What? Why does he always have to twist her words into something else and embarrass her even more? Sasuke's actions were so amusing at times, it was so easy to get a reaction out of her concerning the most simple of things. He got up from his seat and cornered her as his hands pressed the wall on either sides of her head. Well, Hyuga, I am too dangerous to handle. So be careful not to get yourself burned. She bit the inside of her cheek to not faint again, but those black orbs as dark as the midnight sky mesmerized her. She spoke as those mysterious eyes captivated her. If you are made of flames, you can't get burned, Sasuke. Padding down the tree-lined avenue to the Hokage's tower, 2 shinobis stepped into the shadow of an old hardwood. It was almost dawn and soft light flickered down around them. A few more steps, and they were back with all of Konoha glistening around them. Save for the birds and a few other early risers, the streets were empty and quiet. Both Shino and Shikamaru were exhausted from the 3-day mission. But they took their time enjoying the beautiful outskirts of their village. If they were an hour late, they would have missed the unusual peacefulness of the just-waking village. And the crystalline drops that glinted from the tip of every leaf would have been gone. It's 5:30 a.m., this mission was troublesome, sighed the Nara, who glanced at the brightening sky. Shino nodded while he adjusted his black glasses. We have to report to the Hokage about the men. Shikamaru lazily turned his head towards Shino. The Aburame man had abruptly ended what he spoke. What is it, Shino? My insects sensed Hinata here. Nara stopped in his tracks as he turned back to face Shino. What is she doing here at this hour? The man couldn't help but think what Hinata had to do in this abandoned land. Shikamaru, would you mind if I checked upon her? Shino asked, his voice laced with worry. Ever since Team 8 had been formed, he, Kiba and Hinata were always together. They all shared a special bond and were always there for each other. It was no new knowledge that they were protective of Hinata. They considered her as their sister. After a positive response from the Nara, both of them followed the insects, but the sight before them had astonished them. The eldest Hyuga heir was walking hastily out of the Uchiha's apartment, in a large blue shirt that almost reached up to her knees, oblivious to their presence. Shino avoided to jump into any conclusion after seeing Hinata because he knew her very well. She would never associate herself with the Uchiha survivor. Even if she did, she would have a valid reason. But still his mind couldn't ward off some doubts. Why would she visit him in such a time of the day? That too in his apartment, and what's with those clothes? Shikamaru too was surprised. The calm and kind Hinata here with the cold Uchiha, but something was not right. Shino. I know. They retreated along with his insects. They both didn't want to ask Hinata right away. Shino knew that she herself will give some clarification about what he saw, while Nara knew something surely was going on between those two. Whatever it was, he hoped it wouldn't cause another turmoil in Konoha. Hinata hugged her petite form as she ran quickly to the Hyuga compound. She cursed herself for acting like a fool. She felt like a flirt. How could she simply stare at him? It was the most embarrassing moment in her life. No, ever since she met the Uchiha, she has been only doing things that embarrass herself in front of, didn't know if she could face him anymore. Nichan, Hina Nichan. Hinata immediately came back to her, had reached the Hyuga backyard. The garden in the backyard was an exquisite one with a lot of rare and exotic flowers. Hyuga Hikari, her mother built the garden when she was a mere girl. Now Hinata took it as her job to nurture the garden. It was the only symbol her mother left in this huge Hyuga mansion. Between the colorful blossoms, peppered around the garden, were some highly medicinal herbs. It was her addition to the garden. She had grown a particular interest in medicine over the years. Planting these herbs was her favorite hobby. Moreover, the medicines she made were useful for her teammates and her family. Hinata put on her wet baggy jacket and folded Sasuke's shirt to hide it inside her jacket. She scanned the area and found her sister coming towards, quickly patted her cheeks to vanish the redness and ran a hand to smoothen the wrinkles on her wet jacket. Nichan, where were you? Asked a worried Hanabi who stood at the door looking towards Hinata, who was standing in the garden. It was almost dawn and the youngest Hyuga couldn't find her sister at her chamber. Hinata was always a mother figure for Hanabi. She was kind, caring, and carried a lot of affection and patience in her heart. She was everything that Hanabi wished to. Were always known to be cold and calculating. They were harsh, stern, and had no sympathy. They were known for their stoic face and immense strength. Their eyes were pale, showed no emotions, while their hair was dark. Her Nei-chan was completely different. She was the epitome of beauty, kindness, and affection. Hinata fumbled as she ran a hand through her long blue hair. Hanabi-chan, what are you doing here so early? Hanabi walked to her. Ni-chan, I should be asking that to you. Where did you go and why are your clothes wet? Hinata smiled nervously at her younger sister. She was too intelligent for her age. Dodging her questions could make her suspicious. So Hinata decided to answer them. Hanabi, I was training early morning. My clothes are wet because I spilled water while I was drinking. Are you sure it was training, Hinata-sama? Hinata froze hearing that voice. Hyuga Neji, the prodigy and the clan protector, her Ni-san, was standing right behind her. None could excel this young Hyuga in terms of strength and intelligence. Yes, Neji ni, wy, Hinata timidly answered before looking at him. Then why would you come from the back entrance? Isn't Team 8 training ground the other side? Hinata gulped. Her Ni-san couldn't be fooled easily. She always went to the Team 8 training grounds using the front entrance because it was nearer. Now what should she say? If he knew that she went to visit Uchiha Sasuke, then all hell will break loose. No, I decided to practice in Team 7 training ground today. Neji arched his brow, wanting to hear more explanation when Hanabi squealed. Oh, Ne-chan wanted to impress a certain someone from Team 7. I don't understand why Ni-san is called a prodigy when he can't understand something as simple as young love. I pity the woman you would marry. Neji ni. Hanabi dramatically wiped invisible tears. Hinata blushed up to her ears at the wrong interpretation while Neji felt his face start to burn. But he tried to keep a calm demeanor. This fiery little thing. Hyuga Hanabi was perhaps the only person in this entire world who could get away with teasing Neji and not face a fierce retaliation from him in turn. Wait, until I speak to Heishi-sama about you bunking the practice and playing games with Kanhamaru. Neji spoke as he pointed a finger at Hanabi. It was Hanabi's turn to turn bright pink. Hinata giggled while Neji smirked. He was not going to let her go after teasing him in front of Hinata-sama just because she was the heiress. No, you won't, Ni-san, Hanabi whined like a child to Neji while he averted his eyes. Smiling, Hinata walked inside, leaving them, knew that her sister was going to pester Neji, so that her little secret wouldn't be revealed to father. Thankfully, Neji Nisan had forgotten his had to be more careful. As she walked towards her chamber, she spotted a Hyuga maid coming towards her with a scroll. Hinata-sama. The maid bowed before Hinata. Yes, Misa-san, Hinata spoke, smiling warmly at her. This scroll was sent to you from the Yamanaka clan, Misa said as she gave Hinata the scroll. Shall I run a bath for you, Hinata-sama? Hinata quickly denied the request. She didn't want the maid to find out about Sasuke's shirt. Moreover, she wanted to be alone for some time in her room. That won't be necessary. Please ready my breakfast, Misa-san. Hi. The maid bowed before her and took her leave. Hinata quickly closed the doors to her room and opened the scroll. She was happy that the Yamanaka clan was celebrating Ino's birthday and Ino herself invited her. Putting the scroll away, she made a mental note to shop for Ino's birthday, then opened her wardrobe and carefully tucked Sasuke's blue shirt into one of the drawers with old clothes. She didn't want anyone to find the shirt, especially her sister. Hanabi would make a big fuss about it. Sighing, the princess went to take a bath and relax. Hinata slid deeper into the bath. The aromatic oils used in the incense calmed her heart and lulled her to a meditative state. These moments are a rare occurrence in her life. She loved elaborate. The warm water soothed her skin. She closed her eyes to think about the day's events. A lot had happened. A lot that will change her life and destiny forever. Since a long time, he had been driven exclusively by his brother's ideals. Itachi had sacrificed a lot for this village. Sasuke still didn't agree with his brother's decision of protecting the village. But deep down, he had not forgiven himself for doubting his brother's love for him and his family. For others, to be alive was a blessing. However, for Uchiha Sasuke, being alive was a curse. He didn't give a damn about his years of seeking revenge, hoping to avenge his clan. He couldn't believe that he failed just when he was going to accomplish his goal, destroy the village, and to make his situation even worse, he had been forced to stay in the village he wanted to destroy, the village he still despised. Frankly, he would rather be dead than stay in this rotten village, which he wanted nothing to do with. His worst nightmare had come, was stripped of all his ninja duties and was trapped in the village forever. Just when he had lost his hopes, came the Hyuga girl. Her proposal was a bit shocking to him, but he considered it as his golden ticket for freedom and power in the village. He was tired of being treated like a slave and he would never want to agree with Konoha's decision. Although he despised marriage and women, he considered Hyuga Hinata as the solution to his current misery. Accepting her proposal would be a perfect blow to the Konoha council. Smirking, he abruptly stopped walking. Sasuke found himself wandering the streets aimlessly for half an hour. Konoha had changed a lot in the recent years. War had taken a toll on this village. The old roads and buildings were nowhere to be found. Some people carrying goods hastily walking down the road, glancing at him and then murmuring with each other. The last Uchiha chuckled to himself. Psycho Demon. Well, that was a new nickname the civilians had for him. These people of Konoha were really crafty. Murderer, traitor, serial killer, S-class criminal were all the synonyms for Uchiha Sasuke in Konoha. Now he earned another one. The hate, gossips, murmurs and unfriendly glances never bothered him. He didn't care if the crowds loved or hated him. They all were fickle, even the Dobi knows it and he still adores them. Fear. A certain blonde idiot interrupted his train of thoughts. Sasuke groaned in annoyance. The last thing he needed was Naruto to disturb his peace of mind, though he knew that it was impossible. No matter what happened he would not say it loud, but that orange-headed moron was his only family left. Even though his constant pestering was actually a pain in the ass. Oi, fear! Sasuke turned around with a snarl. Couldn't he be any more louder? I wonder why I haven't gone deaf with that loser near me. Dobi. On hearing Sasuke's reply, Naruto cupped his own cheeks and batted his almost non-existent eyelashes. Is that what you say to your long-lost love, Sasuke-chan? Thwack. What happened couldn't have lasted longer than half a second. Sasuke punched Naruto's kissy face and the Uzumaki was sent flying. Sasuke-chan. I should have killed him before. He already had enough and the last thing he ever needed was people to gossip about him and Naruto ending up together. If it would ever happen, then Naruto will be finished at his own hands. For a moment, the loser reminded him of that flirty Yamanaka blonde woman who irritated the hell out him in those academy days. Naruto held his jaw, it hurt like a bitch. You bastard Tem, I was joking man, why on earth would you? His voice trailed off when he spun on his heel, seemingly noticing the Hyuga princess's chakra for the first time since arriving on the scene. On being noticed, Hinata walked towards them hesitantly. The morning sun beamed peeking through the clouds. Golden rays shone softly on the village streets as it got busier. People walked past in a flurry, like a time lapse, the noise gradually amplifying as shops opened and customers rushed in. It was a minute and a half and no one had bothered to speak. 3 of them were standing awkwardly. Sasuke looked at Blonde, who always used to blabber, was now standing next to him with a slight smile edged on his face. The Uchiha could feel something was wrong between them. He realized he'd have to be the one to break this tense silence. Hyuga. His voice cut through the fog of her mind as her eyes focused on him. Happy that Sasuke bothered to greet her, Hinata spoke warmly. Uchiha-san, it's nice to see you again. Again. All the memories of that night flashed before her. She had been trying to hide from him since the past 2 days. Embarrassed, her cheeks colored, she wasn't prepared to face him right away, and Naruto's presence was not doing any good. Without thinking much, she decided to get away from them. Well, I should be on my way. I'll see you later, Uchiha-san, Naruto-san. His keen vision picked up on Hinata's abrupt greeting and Naruto's hesitance in speaking to her. Those usually expressive ocean eyes were clouded over with thoughts Sasuke couldn't hear. The Hyuga turned back and walked away from them. Suddenly, she stopped. Her body turned slightly to the side as those pearly eyes looked over her shoulder to glance at the dark-haired shinobi. Sasuke didn't bother to avert his eyes from her as Hinata glanced at him. A slight smile formed on the Hyuga's face. He didn't miss the way Naruto watched the dark-haired ninjas. He also didn't miss the quickening of his heartbeat when she stopped to smile at him. Only him. He watched the long-haired Hyuga princess who continued on her way into the busying city. Honestly, he hadn't meant to ignore, had wanted to speak to her, but he restrained immediately when his eyes locked hers. By the time he got himself together, he watched her bid them goodbye. He felt his shoulders drop with a sigh. The way she hurried to end the conversation made him feel uneasy. It wasn't like he could blame her. It was after all his fault. Naruto eyed his best friend gingerly. The last thing he needed was for Sasuke to focus on Hinata. He immediately dismissed the thought of Sasuke, and was impossible for someone as cold and harsh as Sasuke to take an interest in Hinata, who's kind and caring. Meanwhile, Sasuke waited with a blank gaze as Naruto went through a whirlwind of emotions. His chance to ask Naruto the reason for his annoying face was cut off by the sudden appearance of Sakura bursting through the roads with a wide smile on her lips. Both heroes looked towards the last member of their team as she strolled up to them. Sasuke-kun. Earlier that day, Hinata breathed a sigh of relief. She felt embarrassed in front of Sasuke. She knew she had to face him, but this just wasn't the time. She didn't expect Naruto to be there. It had been a long time since she saw him, and it still brought back some memories. Hinata-chan, I don't know what. Quickly shaking her head to clear unwanted thoughts, Hinata decided to head towards the training grounds of Team 8. She heard that Shino was back from the mission. It also had been some time since she talked to Kiba and Kurenai-sensei because she was busy with the Hyuga clan issues. Lately, there has been an awful lot of discussions revolving around the clan heiress and her marriage. She was sure the council was up to something. Even if they choose Hanabi as their heiress, she would gladly accept it. There would be nothing but happiness to know that her little sister will rule the clan. But she hated it when the council would degrade her abilities and skills. She knew that their behavior towards her was because she defied them and their orders ever since the war. The war had proven that her Byakugan's reach was absurd. No one in the Hyuga clan could see that far. This revelation came as quite a surprise to all that the clan, for the very first time, decided to train her. But she declined their offer. Ever since she was little, all she received was hate and insults, and then all of a sudden, when they realized her worth, they decided to take her in. Instead of undergoing the Hyuga training, she went on to learn medical ninjutsu. She knew that it would infuriate her clan. All Hyugas were destined to be warriors and ninjas with immense strength and courage since their birth. It was what their ideology said. Her own father, Hyuga Heishi, had restricted her from practicing medical ninjutsu as it wasn't befitting for the eldest of the clan. But she decided to follow her choices. Her decision was considered as disobedience to the clan's authority and power. It was a shame for them that the eldest of the clan was not a strong warrior who underwent the famous Hyuga training. Hence they decided to suppress her by sealing and marrying her off to an eligible suitor, who would listen to their orders, as soon as possible. So, she decided to play along with the marriage plans of the clan. Not even in their wildest dreams would they have ever thought of her choosing a missing nin. For who in this entire world would be able to tame an Uchiha? It would be the perfect answer to the Hyugas who tried to belittle and underestimate her too much. Now let them come to seal her, and she would give them a taste of their own medicine. Hinata. Turning towards the source of the noise, she found Kiba and Shino waving at her. Shino showed up wearing a long-sleeved shirt, pants and dark sunglasses, his headband displayed on his forehead, while Kiba came in bold colors, though his shirt was long-sleeved. He wore his headband proudly displayed on his forehead, with Akamaru at his side. Brushing away all her thoughts, she waved back at them. Kiba skidded to stop right in front of Hinata with a wide grin on his face while Shino walked behind him slowly. "How have you been, Hinata?" he asked. "Kiba-kun, Shino-kun," Hinata smiled while shaking their hands. "How was the mission, Shino-kun?" Shino smiled back. "It was fine, although we found it troublesome." "Hey, you sound like Shikamaru, Shino," Kiba said as he leaned back and yawned lazily, putting his hand over his mouth. Hinata giggled. It was nice to reunite with her team. Team 8 was her second family. Over the years they formed a special bond with each other. Kiba and Shino were her best friends. Say Hinata, how about we go to Sensei's house? Kiba smiled back, patting her head. I'm sure she would make some delicious meals. I can't keep torturing my stomach anymore. Arf arf. Akamaru barked in agreement as Hinata patted his head. He too was feeling hungry. Shino sighed. Sometimes, he would wonder if Kiba lived to eat. As if reading his thoughts, Hinata laughed while Kiba and Akamaru glared at him. They all walked to their sensei's house chatting happily on the way. Yuhi Kurenai was surprised to see her students. Her teammate, Kiba, Shino, Hinata, about time you all visited me. I was starting to think you forgot your sensei. Oh, come on sensei, we have come now isn't it? Kiba gave a toothy grin to which Kurenai smacked his head. Unless you feel hungry, isn't it Kiba? Asked the teacher. Shino sighed as Kiba acted like he was in pain while Hinata went to hug her sensei. Hinata, you are the only one who really cares about me. Kurenai gave her student a motherly smile after hugging her. Anyo sensei, I'm sorry that I didn't visit you often. It is okay dear, I was joking. Come inside, said the teammate teacher who stepped aside to let her students inside. The room gave off a cozy feeling, with couches lined across one side of the room and the television set across from it with the windows behind it and the curtains drawn. How is Mirai, sensei? Shino asked as his friends seated themselves in the couch. They all knew that their sensei was having a hard time managing Mirai and teaching at the academy. Mirai was indeed a powerhouse. She had so much energy in her that she could even beat Naruto. That cute little girl was a ball of sunshine in Kurine's life. She is at the daycare with other kids. She loves spending time there although she complains that you three don't come to play with her. Kurenai said as she served biscuits and tea for her students. Sensei, I wanted to meet Mirai-chan and play with her but the clan is keeping me busy, Hinata said while watching Kurenai set the teacups on the table. Don't worry Hinata, I understand. Kiba stopped munching the biscuits as he heard what his friend said. Hinata, what does the Hyuga Council want now? Is everything okay? Shino too nodded. He wanted to know if Hinata is facing clan issues. Hyuga always sidelined and refused to acknowledge their friend, over the years. This infuriated both to a great extent that they decided to protect Hinata from the clan and its orders. Hinata smiled nervously at all of them as she drank the tea. She felt the atmosphere in the room turn serious as three pairs of eyes focused on her. Now they were worried about her. She shouldn't have mentioned it. But she could not go back now. No Kiba-kun, Shino-kun, everything is alright. They are now going to decide the clan heir. All three gasped. Selecting a clan heir means sealing the other. No, they are not going to do that right. Kiba glowered to which Shino touched his shoulder telling him to calm down. Kurenai inquired worriedly with a calmer tone, Hinata, are they going to seal you? Hinata knew this question was coming. She didn't feel bad when her team assumed that she would be sealed. She knew everybody thought Hanabi is a more capable heir than her. She had been accustomed to this from years. But hearing it from her own teammates and sensei had hurt her a bit. As if reading her thoughts, Kurine gasped slightly, Oh Hinata, I really didn't mean that. Sensei, it's okay. It was going to happen this way. I already knew it. Hinata smiled trying to comfort her sensei. We will talk to the council. Shino and Kurenai sensei will convince your father. Kiba aggressively demanded in an attempt to help Hinata from the fate the clan has decided. Yes Hinata, what Kiba said is right. We will talk to him. Shino too supported Kiba's decision. They could never see her sealed. Hinata smiled at her teammates as she held her sensei's hand. Thank you so much. You all are my only support but father is trying to find a way out of this. Hinata, you don't. Kurenai tried convincing her but Hinata beat her to it. Sensei, don't worry about me. No matter what happens, I will never allow myself to get sealed. I will not allow the clan to decide my fate. It is a promise I made to myself long ago. Kurenai realized that she no longer was the little shy girl she once knew. Right now, she could see a new strength and confidence in her student. Hinata had changed a lot, which she failed to notice as a teacher. Perhaps it was for the best. On realizing this, her eyes gleamed with tears as she spoke. Hinata, I'm proud of you. No matter what your decision is, I will be there for you in the end. Kiba was about to interrupt when Shino cut in. Kiba, we should respect her decision. I'm sure she will get through this. Shino knew Hinata well, but after seeing her confidence in herself, he trusted her with her decisions. If she met the Uchiha that day, then there must be something important. He was sure she has found a way out of this problem. A solution that has something to do with the Uchiha. No matter what it is, he knew Hinata will surely tell him one day. Until then he will wait and support her. Hinata didn't know what to say. She hugged all three of them as tears betrayed her face. She was lucky, but then she felt bad she didn't tell them the truth. Silently she prayed, closing her eyes tightly as she had only one thing to wish for. All these years, the only thought that gently warmed her insides was that she would get Sasuke-kun to notice her. Not as something he needed to protect, but as a woman who could love and care him. She had hated the girl who had spread the rumor that Sasuke-kun's ideal type of girl was one with long hair, pretty, strong and confident, because she had ensured that she passed every single criteria, yet the most she had ever received from him had been annoying. The idea of being together with Sasuke had become almost impossible when he had decided to leave the village for revenge. When the news hit her, she had spent days mourning over his absence. But instead of hating him for everything, her love and attachment towards Sasuke had only doubled. No matter how many times Ino laughed and deemed her love for him as a childish quest, she would never agree to that. Over the years, she tried to be the perfect woman anybody would want. She worked hard to excel in every field. Whenever she felt she couldn't go more, she would think about the day Sasuke will come back to Konoha and acknowledge her efforts. The thought of impressing him had made her to achieve even the impossible. She went on to become Lady Tsunade's apprentice and took up the intense training for years. Following in her master's footsteps, she grew stronger, inevitably surpassing Tsunade in medicine and strength. She wasn't the same little Sakura who used to rely on Naruto, Sasuke or Kakashi for help and watch their battles from sidelines. Now she could proudly say who she was because she had an identity that the world knows. The cherry-haired girl smiled at her musings as she ran over the streets of Konoha. A few minutes ago at the hospital, when one of her patients told her that he saw the former missing nin walking through the city market, her joy knew no bounds that she had quickly raced over to see him. Ever since Sasuke had been released by the Konoha Council, he would never come out of his house. No matter how many times she and Naruto would try to find him, he would always escape from them, or rather escape from her. Panting, she smiled at the handsome sight before her. The cool air blew her pink strands as she approached the only man she had waited for all these years. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke stopped in his tracks, puzzled as to why she was here. She was the last one he had wanted to see. Her emerald eyes crinkled with a smile as they met his, like she'd been expecting him. All pink bangs were swept off to the side, kept in place by a red headband, and her hair was shorter than the last time he saw her. Sakura always looked like a walking cherry blossom tree to him. Hesitantly, Sasuke pushed his thoughts aside as she approached towards him and Naruto. Sasuke-kun. Her voice practically sang the words, the loving melody proving how joyed she was to see him. Sakura, he acknowledged. Even before he could ask why she was here, the stupid Dobi beat him to it. Where the hell have you been, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked. I was starting to think that you were gonna ditch us. I had to finish up some work at the hospital, Sakura replied and raised an accusing finger at the blonde teammate. Not all of us run around doing whatever we want without regard to anything else. Naruto pretended to lightly smack Sasuke's back, when the latter glared back. No need to be so mean, Sakura-chan. He crossed his arms and puffed his cheeks like a child. Besides, that sounds like you're describing Sasuke, not me. He is the one who walks around with a stick up his ass and does things without any regard. Sasuke's eye twitched at the accusation. You better not make me repeat the same thing that happened 10 minutes ago. The Uzumaki winced remembering the painful punch he got from Sasuke. Sakura laughed looking at Naruto's constipated face, to which Sasuke arched his eyebrows. A blush rose to her cheeks and she looked away from him as she tucked a lock of pink hair behind her ear. His handsome face was too much to handle for her little heart. I thought maybe we all should go for a lunch together. What do you say, Naruto? Naruto jumped up in the air as Sakura proposed the idea. Yes, Sakura-chan. I have been waiting for our team reunion lunch. I can't wait to celebrate, isn't it, Sasuke-tem? Sasuke inwardly groaned as his teammates made stupid reunion plans. He didn't sign up for this shit, but the more he resists, the more he will have the dobe behind his back. So he decided to go with them only for this one time. Sakura was dejected as Naruto didn't get the hint exactly. She had wanted to have a lunch date with Sasuke, but this idiot here wanted to have lunch with them. She mentally facepalmed herself for having great expectations from Naruto. She didn't want Naruto to tag along, but Sasuke would only come if Naruto was there. A smile etched on her face as an idea struck her. Say, Sasuke-kun, can we have one more person come along with us to the lunch? It would be fun to be in pairs. Even before Sasuke could react to her legendary idea, Naruto replied, that's right, Sakura-chan. More the number, more is the fun. Sakura was on cloud 9 and for once she thanked the gods for making Naruto understand her plan. She was happy that now she could get a chance with Sasuke, but she had to think about the girl who will be tagging along with Naruto. If Ino tagged along, then her dream of having a date with Sasuke will be impossible. She could just imagine what would happen if Ino Pig would come. Sasuke-kun, I was waiting all these years for you to take me out on a date. A handsome man like you needs a beautiful and stunning woman like me. This selfish forehead had kept you away from me, but in the end we will be together forever. Single quote. The thought of Ino Pig blabbering all that and latching on to Sasuke's arm, her head resting on his chest and she feeding him with ice cream and cakes made Sakura want to jump off a cliff. No matter what, Ino Pig should not come with them. Otherwise that blonde witch will have Sasuke all to herself. Then, there was Tenten. Tenten was not like Ino, so she shouldn't be afraid, but still Tenten doesn't get along with them. The brown-haired girl was extremely blunt and honest when it came to things like this. Sakura felt that Tenten would most likely pick an argument with Sasuke and he would walk out eventually. Then the last one who was left was Hinata. The blue-haired girl was soft-spoken, polite and always looked at Naruto. Perfect. Hinata-chan could draw Naruto's attention from them and it wouldn't disturb her and Sasuke's date. Sakura smiled happily as she found a mind-boggling plan. But Sakura-chan, I don't think Kakashi-sensei would be free today for lunch. Naruto said while running his hand through his hair. Sakura nodded while thinking about her plans but froze when she heard the name, Kakashi. Naruto, why would you want Kakashi-sensei to come to lunch with us? Sakura-chan, it's a Team 7 meet and you said we need to be in even numbers. For once in his entire life, Sasuke wanted to praise Naruto for being this dumb. He was contented to find Sakura look like she couldn't help but go and bang her head somewhere. Sakura regretted praising Naruto. She felt like punching his face, but she controlled herself because Sasuke was standing here too. She didn't want Sasuke to see her burst like a volcano. Naruto, I was not talking about Kakashi-sensei, why don't we get a girl to tag along? I don't think it's needed, Sakura. I'm not interested in stupid lunch plans, Sasuke said before Sakura goes on. But Sasuke-kun, we need to go for a lunch. It's been years since we have gathered. I wanted a girl to tag along because it would be nice if there were 2 boys and 2 girls. Come on Tem, stop making Sakura-chan sad. What are you going to lose if you come for one lunch with us, Sasuke? Naruto said, narrowing his eyes at Sasuke. Sasuke turned his head away from Naruto. Sanity, HN. Sakura-chan, don't mind Tem. Even if I have to beat the shit out of him, I will bring him for lunch. So who are you going to bring? How about Hinata-chan? I'll ask her when she is free and then we all can go for an awesome lunch. Sakura said cheerfully. The name, Hinata, had made both Naruto and Sasuke freeze. Sakura watched Naruto's face turn blank when she mentioned the Hyuga girl. It was then she regretted it. She cursed herself for being inconsiderate about Naruto. She had only thought about herself and Sasuke. Naruto, I am. Naruto looked at Sakura and smiled slightly as he could see her sad. But it's been so long Naruto, you shouldn't. Sakura couldn't continue as Naruto interrupted her. You shouldn't worry Sakura-chan. For the first time in his life, Sasuke felt like he was a stranger to them. No, a stranger to Naruto. He knew something had happened with him and Hinata, but the fact that Naruto chose to keep it hidden from him hurt it a bit. He didn't know why his chest tightened. Was it seeing Naruto hide something from him or that Hinata was involved in it? Naruto looked at Sasuke as he felt those black orbs gaze at him. He knew Sasuke's questioning look but chose not to address it. He didn't want to, as the sight of Hinata and Sasuke earlier didn't sit right with him. Sakura noticed the tension between Sasuke and Naruto. She didn't understand why Naruto was reluctant to talk to Sasuke of all people. Further, she didn't miss the way Sasuke's face looked conflicted when she mentioned Hinata's name. Sakura feared something is wrong. Even before Naruto could walk away, Sakura caught his arm and spoke, trying to cheer him up. Naruto, everything is going to be alright. Those blue eyes looked up at the sky as he shaked his head and walked away from her. No, Sakura-chan. Sometimes, fate of our lives is beyond our plans and we are bound to accept it. Sakura watched Naruto disappear into the crowd, so did Sasuke turn back and walk away. She had a gut feeling, all this had something to do with Hinata. The pink-haired girl sighed. She watched Sasuke walk away and decided to follow him, but the latter abruptly stopped walking. Sakura, I want to be alone. But Sasuke-kun, I want to. Her words were cut short because of his crystal-clear look. Sakura stood there watching him walk away. He was so near yet so far to her. Sasuke reached his apartment and found a letter in his lonely mailbox. The letter apparently was an invitation from the Yamanaka clan to attend the birthday party of that blondie. No clans, no people dared to invite him to functions, yet this one had the audacity to send him a letter that had ended with Sasuke-kun, do come for the party. All will be waiting for you. Your one and only precious Ino Yamanaka. Sasuke gritted his teeth reading the end. He opened his door and threw the letter on the table as a myriad of thoughts ran through his head. For now, what he needed was freedom from the council and its restrictions. He has to attend the function, for it will be a chance to meet that Hyuga to no further would go to any extent to achieve what he wants. Even if it was marriage to the Hyuga for convenience. Even if she had something to do with Naruto. Sasuke closed his eyes as he stood in his balcony, feeling the strong winds blowing. The hall was decorated with purple flowers and ribbons. From lavish food to dance party, the Yamanaka clan was really into making Ino's birthday an exorbitant function. Hinata loved the vibe here. It was so joyful and exciting. She found Sakura, Tenten and Ino giggling and gossiping. On the other side, Naruto was challenging Lee and Neji to a drinking competition. Sai and Shikamaru were pretty engaged in a serious discussion while all their senseis were busy laughing and talking about their students. Was a happy moment for everybody, but he was missing. Pearly Eyes looked around for him, and saw him sitting alone at a table, with a bottle of sake. Kiba loudly started grumbling about how the ex-missing nin had dared show up. He's part of Team 7, Hinata murmured, and he's not a missing nin anymore. He is, Hinata. What do you know? Kiba said loudly, and she winced as heads turned their way. Kiba was her friend, but Sasuke was too, even though no one else was aware of their agreement. She became aware of the looks people were giving Sasuke and of the murmurs and counter-murmurs. She bit her lips nervously. You talk as if Uchiha has never done any wrong, Kiba snarled and seemed ready to continue, when Shino interfered and told him to behave. Hinata walked towards Sasuke, leaving Shino and Kiba staring in her. Could feel curious and unfriendly glances directed towards her, and she swallowed nervously. Uchiha-san, she asked politely, hoping that she didn't disturb him. Sasuke looked up, his eyes meeting hers as she smiled. I thought you wanted to avoid me, he said idly, and she felt her hackles rise. She sat down, pressing her lips together, well aware of Kiba's glares and of muted whispers. She knew he was talking about the time they briefly met at the training grounds. I was embarrassed to face you that day, she bit her lips nervously as she told, you are drunk. How can you tell? You don't like talks. Sasuke chuckled. Observant. I didn't think you will show up, Uchiha-san, she timidly asked him. If the so-called beautiful and gorgeous heiress of Yamanaka clan sends a personal invitation, who wouldn't? He grumbled. Hinata laughed quietly. She knew this was one of Sasuke's ways to crack a joke. When should we disclose, Hyuga? He asked quietly. She was startled at the sudden change of track. Well, she faltered. We should, although my father wouldn't approve, she admitted slowly. And my teammates, they would want explanations and pester me and threaten you and, she shook her head as if to clear her head of thoughts. Sasuke was looking at her narrowly. Well, you are regretting it, isn't it, Hyuga? What? No. Her cheeks burned. I want you to speak to father about us, Uchiha-san, before the clan passes its decision about my future, resumed, looking at him timidly, if that's okay with you. Sasuke shrugged, to which she smiled happily. No, I won't regret my decision. It is always better than the clans, she told him, slightly blushing. Smirking, Sasuke poured out a glass of sake and pushed it towards her. Although I would enjoy seeing your father's constipated face when he knows his obedient princess chose a missing nin. Hinata nearly choked. Sasuke, she spluttered reproachfully. Those pearl-like eyes widened to saucers, her pale face flushed with heat and her mouth dropped slightly in surprise. Her actions were so amusing at times, it was so easy to get a reaction out of her concerning the most simple of things. Unknown to them, a masked face was watching them with clear astonishment. Hitaki Kakashi was amused to find the Hyuga heiress chatting with the Uchiha. Well, it was not a everyday sight to see his bad boy student chatting with someone without getting annoyed. He watched their interaction and found it interesting. He never knew Sasuke could get along with someone for straight 15 minutes. Hitaki smirked to himself at his new discovery and walked towards his student. Hinata excused herself as Kakashi and Sasuke talked. She didn't want to disturb them. Just when she made it to the next table, somebody caught her hand and dragged her to a corner. When she finally regained her balance, she saw a very pissed-off Neji. What were you thinking, Hinata-sama? A heiress should not associate with a traitor like him. He doesn't deserve your kindness. He hissed at her. Hinata looked at him in surprise, but before she could answer, he beat her to it. Hinata-sama, don't forget that Uchiha is responsible for severe injuries of nearly half of Rookie 9, you mustn't go anywhere near him. Blame it the sake, but Hinata felt a sudden spurt of anger. Nobody should judge Sasuke. No one had the right to do so. Ni-san, I know whom to associate with. Everyone deserves a chance. It doesn't matter what he was in the past, all that matters is the present, she glowered. It is the past that defines a man's present and the future. He was dangerous and he still is. He can't be trusted. Neji argued, trying to convince his cousin. Then the same should also apply to you, Ni-san, she said as she glared at her cousin. Neji paled. This was not the answer he expected. He could see that right now she was not the same Hinata he knew once. Hinata gasped on seeing her brother's shocked face. Realizing what she said, "En Neji ni. I'm so sorry she stuttered, horrified at her own words. Neji shook his head. It's fine Hinata-sama, you are right. I said this because I was worried. I apologize for shouting at you. Hinata felt her chest tighten. She hurt him so much. She shouldn't have been so harsh. She hugged him tightly and apologized once again. Neji tensed at Hinata's actions, but then he held his cousin in his arms. Hinata-sama, it's alright, I'm not hurt anymore. Further, it was nice to see you angry at once, but you look no more intimidating than a rabbit, said Neji as he laughed in a hope to make her smile. Hinata's eyes widened. She lifted her head from his shoulder to see if it was Neji. It truly was. The stoic prodigy of the Hyuga clan, who was considered to be emotionless, was laughing at her. She pushed him away and folded her hands to her chest. Hyuga Neji, you just insulted the Hyuga princess and now you must face the consequences. And what is the punishment, princess? Neji smirked at her antics. He was relieved that Hinata let go of what happened earlier, but still it hurted his pride. I'd love to wipe that smirk of yours, Ni-san. Hinata thought to herself as she said, then, you must confess your undying love for Tenten-chan. Neji's face turned a bright shade of pink as his cousin walked away, giggling to herself on seeing his blush. How did she even know that? Shit. He cursed himself for blushing in front of Hinata. He never knew he could blush like that. How was he supposed to even look at her now? Meanwhile, at the Hyuga house, the youngest Hyuga rummaged through her wardrobe to find a nice outfit for the evening. She was annoyed with the fact that none of her clothes suited her tastes. All her dresses were either too formal or too dull. The girl wanted to impress her teammate Kanhamaru. How she wished Hinata was here to give her some suggestions. Hinata had the perfect body and looks for any dress that she secretly envied. Instantly, Hanabi closed her wardrobe and ran to her sister's room in hopes of getting a nice dress for the evening. On entering Hinata's room, she found several maids cleaning her Nei-chan's room. Hanabi-sama, is there something you need help with? Asked a young maid who was changing the sheets. No, continue with your work, Hanabi said as she opened her sister's wardrobe. She didn't want them to poke their noses in her business. Furthermore, she had to find the best dress to impress Kanhamaru and win his heart. Hinata had wonderful dresses. Lots of them were gifts from her father, Kurenai-sensei, teammates, friends and visitors. But her sister always chose to wear a big loose purple jacket. Hanabi found the dresses of her choice from her Ni-chan's closet, but they were too loose for her, as Hinata had a curvy figure compared to Hanabi, who had a lean figure. Shutting the doors of the wardrobe, Hanabi then rummaged through the drawers. She found several old unused dresses of Hinata. Smiling victoriously, the brown-haired girl pulled out a blue dress that was tucked in neatly. It's not a dress but a shirt. It didn't look like her sister's since it was too big. Also, she never saw Hinata wear a shirt. She lifted it to examine when she found a symbol. At the sight of the Uchiha fan on the back, Hanabi stared blankly, blinking her pale eyes as she took in the sight of the emblem. Uchiha Sasuke and Hinata Ni-chan. Impossible. Her Ni-chan wouldn't do that. No, not with Sasuke. The long silence that followed was broken by the sound of several gasps from the maids in the room. Hanabi tensed on, forgetting the fact that she wasn't alone in the room. If her father got to know about this, then Hinata will be in trouble. She quickly balled up the shirt and hid it inside the closet not before scolding the maids. Stop dallying and do your job. Yes, Hanabi-sama. They immediately engaged in their previous tasks afraid of getting scolded. The young heiress walked out of the room quickly, thinking about what could have happened between the last Uchiha and the eldest Hyuga heir. Sasuke bit his tongue as Hinata left him to chat with Kakashi Hatake. He knew that the old man's piercing glances at him and Hinata were nothing but suspicious. Even though Sasuke was grateful to the man for being a mentor to him, the thought of Kakashi pissing him off for the next few minutes was unbearable. Damn Hinata for leaving him alone with an old immature pervert. Trouble in paradise? Kakashi questioned with a playful smirk that went hidden. He had a feeling that Sasuke could see it much more clearly than he let on. A flicker of annoyance flashed on Sasuke's sculptured features before he crossed his arms over his broad chest. I'm not in the mood for small talks. What's got your undies in a twist? Shut up. Sasuke seethed, his dark menacing eyes glaring daggers at his nosy teacher. Now stop being a bastard in front of your teacher and calm down. Kakashi chuckled as he sat next to Sasuke and took a glass of red wine. You're being annoying. Sasuke bit out, menacingly. But I didn't find you annoyed a few minutes before with a certain someone. You don't need to know what you don't know. But I came here to teach you things you don't know so that you don't mess up in the future. It's a bad thing to my reputation that if one of my dear students is not well versed with certain complicated things of life. Sasuke raised his eyebrows at his sensei. What? Kakashi's visible eye was narrow and creased at the corners as he smirked beneath his mask. You know the same thing I gave to Naruto. Ika Ika Volume 14. Sasuke's left eye twitched. I will shove that up your. Oh, calm down, boy. I didn't know you have an interest towards that domain, then I'll refer you. Sasuke's ears turned pink. Shut your trap before I Chidori it. Suddenly, an emotion akin to playfulness lit up the ex-Avenger's dark eyes while a smirk lifted the side of his lips. I didn't get deviated, Kakashi. The deviation itself came to me. Kakashi raised his eyebrows. I hope this deviation doesn't create a war in Konoha, Sasuke. You know, Sakura's. There was no harm in telling Kakashi, especially since he'd need him in knocking a few heads of that damned Hyuga clan. Not Sakura, but you know this Kunoichi. Hyuga Hinata. Sasuke. Not a word, Kakashi. Not in the academy anymore to hear your lectures. With that, Sasuke got up and walked away. Kakashi could sense something was fishy. He thought Sasuke would casually throw empty threats and walk away, but this was new. Why can't this village have a peaceful life for once? Dot, 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 dot. As the celebrations ended, Naruto and Lee had thrown up. Neji was the one taking care of them, although he wished against it. Tenten, who stayed sober, was with Shikamaru helping Sakura and Ino to get on their feet without falling. Shino took Kiba home, who drank too much and fussed about Sasuke. Speaking of Sasuke, he was nowhere to be found. Hinata guessed that he must have left early. The night was perfect to match her mood, cold and lonely. The never-ending black abyss brought her comfort in a way the bright sky of the did not. For some reason, she didn't want to dwell on that thought, especially when her mind kept reminding her of ruby red eyes. Then the image faded back to onyx pupils, caging her to the wall. Sasuke. In her heart, she had a feeling it would come to this ever since they sat down at the diner. She would need Sasuke's help in escaping the seal, but did he really want to marry her? No, there must be some other reason. Something deeper. Young as she was not naive to think that he was to gain nothing from their union apart from the council issues. For now, she would have to put that in the back of her mind. There were other, more pressing matters to attend to. Sasuke. He was really a mysterious person to her. She never had talked to him. Not even once. It's just that she was busy chasing Naruto. But Sasuke wasn't as bad as she thought. He was much more than what people said. Much more than a cold, brutal S-class criminal and missing nin who was driven by revenge. Somewhere she saw warmth in those black orbs. Deep inside he was nothing but a broken man. A man who was wronged in every way. She realized that Sasuke wasn't bad, perhaps it was the circumstances that made him like this. She was so engrossed in her thoughts that she failed to see the Uchiha standing in front of her. She realized only when her head hit his hard chest, while warm hands wrapped around her waist to prevent her fall. You get lost too often, my love. Shall I get you a map? Hinata face tinged red at, my love. She looked up as his hands rested on her waist. His eyes glinted with mischief. Not that she hated that, but now it was her time to shine. Why should boys have all the fun? Probably not because I'm planning to get lost in your eyes. Sasuke's eyes bulged at the unexpected cheeky response. Hinata gave him a sly smirk. Good going, Hinata. You surely flustered him. She didn't know if it was alcohol that gave her this confidence, but she enjoyed his astonishment. Now that she stood near his chest, she noticed that his chakra was different. His color was a lot darker than others, just as Naruto's was a lot brighter and warmer. Sasuke's was cold and lonely, making her want to reach out and touch it. Though Hinata knew he felt her eyes on him, she couldn't help but admire his beauty. The strong jawline, smooth skin of his neck, and for a second, she was lost in the beauty of how his muscles tensed when her eyes ventured downwards. She stared at the long eyelashes that framed his onyx eyes, which were now examining her. Did he catch her checking him out? Way to go, Hinata. Now you look like a creepy Hyuga heiress, she berated herself mentally. Smiling nervously, Hinata stepped back, keeping her head bowed. Out of the corner of her, she saw him looking at her intensely. Sasuke took a moment to trail his eyes to study the way her long hair was carried in the breeze and the way her eyes slid up to his for a moment. She sure was a mystery box like him. He liked her this way, and he wondered if she showed this flirty side of her to him only. You are getting flirtier, princess. Hinata lifted her head up and said, well, I have to catch up because I'm marrying the king of flirts. Sasuke chuckled. He liked this. No, he loved this version of hers. Sweet and spicy. So, you prepared to get hitched? None of your suitors interest you? Hinata shrugged, as the soft breeze blew her long hair. None, Sasuke. That's a shame, he said as he brushed his hair backwards. And why is that? She asked him, curiously. He turned back and walked forward as she joined him. After a pause, he replied in a deep voice with a flirty smile. I like a little competition, Hina. The heiress blushed. She didn't know what exactly caused her to blush. The fact that he would get into a fight for her, or the fact that he called her Hina. Whichever it was, she didn't care, for her brain couldn't think properly as her heart was beating wildly. Smiling nervously, Hinata stepped back, keeping her head bowed. Out of the corner of her, she saw him looking at her intensely. Sasuke took a moment to trail his eyes to study the way her long hair was carried in the breeze and the way her eyes slid up to his for a moment. She sure was a mystery box like him. He liked her this way, and he wondered if she showed this flirty side of her to him only. You are getting flirtier, princess. Hinata lifted her head up and said, well, I have to catch up because I'm marrying the king of flirts. Sasuke chuckled. He liked this. No, he loved this version of hers. Sweet and spicy. So, you prepared to get hitched? None of your suitors interest you? Hinata shrugged, as the soft breeze blew her long hair. None, Sasuke. That's a shame, he said as he brushed his hair backwards. And why is that? She asked him, curiously. He turned back and walked forward as she joined him. After a pause, he replied in a deep voice with a flirty smile. I like a little competition, Hina. The heiress blushed. She didn't know what exactly caused her to blush. The fact that he would get into a fight for her, or the fact that he called her Hina. Whichever it was, She didn't care, for her brain couldn't think properly as her heart was beating wildly. Juicy tomatoes. Knock knock, fresh tomatoes, knock knock. Baby tomatoes, knock knock. Sasuke flung his sheets off and pushed his disheveled bangs back in annoyance. It was only 7 in the morning, and who in their right mind had the audacity to stand at his door and knock? He had been in the midst of a tantalizing dream about ripe, red tomatoes, a precious sight in the midst of winter. And now, that dream lay shattered. Determined to give whoever was at the door a piece of his mind, Sasuke stormed through the hallway, his steps filled with a fiery determination. If this interruption didn't have a good reason, he was going to make sure they regretted it. After all, tomatoes were his solace in these cold times. Uchiha flung the door open and leaned against the frame. He was greeted by 2 warm pearl eyes. Hinata knew he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. His resting bitch face was clearly showing that. He glared at her. She stared at him. He moved aside. She walked in. So, what brings you here, Hyuga? Sasuke asked, his voice laced with a mix of impatience and curiosity. Hinata took a seat beside him on the couch, her demeanor slightly tense. She took a deep breath and began, her words shrouded in mystery. Hanabi, my younger sister, found out about you and me. Sasuke swiftly turned his face to her, his eyes widening in surprise. She found out about the plan. Hinata shook her head, her expression serious. No, she thinks we are in a secret relationship. A spark of understanding flickered in Sasuke's eyes, his interest piqued. That's exactly what we need, he said, his tone calculating. Hinata nodded, her eyes filled with worry. But there's an issue. She wants to personally meet us today evening. Sasuke furrowed his brow, confusion clouding his face. For what? He asked, genuinely puzzled. To make sure if you are really into me or not, Hinata explained. Sasuke leaned back on the couch, a smirk tugging at his lips as he grasped the situation. So, what do you want me to do? He inquired, his voice tinged with amusement. Hinata reached into her bag, pulling out 2 books. She held one out to Sasuke, her cheeks turning a faint shade of pink. Here, she said, I got us these. Sasuke took the book, raising an eyebrow as he read the title aloud. 51 Ways to Impress Your Date. What the hell is this? He asked, amusement lacing his voice. Hinata blushed further and stood up, making her way to the kitchen to fetch a glass of water. It's to guide us, she replied, taking a sip from the glass. Considering the fact that we both have 0 dating experience, it might come in handy. Sasuke followed her to the kitchen, a curious glint in his eyes. How the air you so sure I haven't dated anyone? He retorted, a playful challenge in his voice. Hinata raised her eyebrows, suppressing a smile as she took another sip of water. Then impress me, Uchiha-san, she said calmly. Sasuke smirked, rising to the challenge. Are you a trash bag? He asked, his voice oozing with confidence. Hinata choked on her water, her eyes widening in surprise. What? She managed to utter, coughing slightly. Sasuke leaned in, his voice low and dangerous. Because I want to take you out, he whispered. Hinata blinked, her mind processing his words. Then realization struck her. That was a pickup line. She asked, her voice filled with a mix of surprise and amusement. Sasuke nodded, pouring himself a glass of water. Sasuke, that was nowhere near romantic or decent, Hinata chuckled, shaking her head. Sasuke smirked dangerously, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. Well, then I'll have to step up my game. I thought you wouldn't handle that, he said, a challenge in his voice. I can handle anything. Don't underestimate me, Sasuke. Hinata said, crossing her arms and locked eyes with him. Inside, Hinata was on the verge of collapsing. She knew she wouldn't stand a chance. But she couldn't give away just like that. Uchiha looked at her with a teasing glint in his eyes and said, since you want me to read that book, I will slam it on the table and do it till the evening. Hinata tucked a small strand of her hair, as her heart was beating faster. He came closer to her and whispered, "Do you wish to be that book, Hinata?" 1, 2, 3. Kya. Hinata's face reddened to the level that she suspected she had a nosebleed. This guy was impossible. Seeing her reaction, Sasuke laughed hysterically and walked to the living room. She quickly walked behind him with pink cheeks. "Sasuke, you won't do this in front of Hanabi, right? She is never gonna let it rest." Sasuke nodded with eyes glued at her. His face still held that teasing look that was going to make hers burst with all the blushing. Hinata took her bag to leave and left a small box on the couch. "Fresh tomatoes, Hyuga?" Sasuke asked, eyeing the box with curiosity. Hinata smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Yes. From the Hyuga garden. Nobody else seems to appreciate them, so I thought I'd bring them to you." Sasuke's lips curled into a satisfied grin as he picked up a tomato, taking a bite and relishing its flavor. Hinata made her way towards the door, turning back to Sasuke with a playful glint in her eyes. "Sasuke, 5 p.m. at Konoha Bakery. Don't forget to go through the book," she called out. Sasuke stood up, a mischievous twinkle in his eyes. "I'll be there, Hyuga," he replied, his voice laced with a hint of excitement. He closed the door behind her, munching on a tomato and glancing at the book. As he savored the sweet tang of the fruit, he couldn't help but think that Hinata truly was something else. The challenges she brought into his life were unexpected, but undeniably intriguing. With a smirk on his lips, he opened the book, ready to explore the realms of fake dating and unexpected encounters. The Hyuga servants ran fast and forth. The table was laid, dishes were served, and tea was poured. The doors slammed open, with all of the Hyugas on their knees bowing down to show their respect for the unexpected visitor. Hyuga Heishi bowed his head as he greeted the old woman before him. After a long time, she had come back to this mansion, and Heishi knew it wasn't a simple visit. Hyuga Hakan, the mother of Hyuga Heishi and Hazashi, stood before the clan. She had the same, wrinkled yet elegant face with cold eyes that lacked compassion. Hakan nodded at the clan as they bowed before her. She walked towards the table and sat down. "How nice of your daughters to not greet their grandmother, Hiashi." The Hyuga head clenched his jaw. "Oka-sama, your visit was unexpected," Hiashi said as he motioned his servants to call his daughters to the hall. Hakan sipped a cup of green tea as she said, "Manners are best known when the situation is unexpected, son. I thought I had taught you well." Heishi sat down opposite his mother and beckoned the servants to serve the food. "Why are you here, Oka-sama?" he asked his mother directly. In fact, Heishi himself couldn't figure out his mother. If he was the most feared person in the clan, then his mother was way beyond that. She was the lady who single-handedly led the clan when his father had died unexpectedly. With 2 children by her side, she continued to lead until either of them were fit for the position. Heishi always strove to meet her expectations, but she always seemed unsatisfied with him. That was why there was a strained communication between them. It became more distant after his brother's death and almost non-existent after his wife passed away. Hakan stared at her son. "Do I need a reason to visit my clan?" Just when Heishi was about to reply, the door opened and Hanabi walked in. "Ohayo gozaimasu, Obasan." Hakan eyed her granddaughter and nodded at her. "Where is your elder sister?" Heishi stilled. Hanabi spoke after a pause, "Oni-chan is outside." Hakan chuckled slightly, "So the heiress is setting quite an example for everyone. Is this what you've taught her, Heishi?" Hanabi looked at her father who had his head bowed down. She couldn't understand why this woman is angry on something so insignificant. "Obasan, Oni-chan didn't know you are coming." Hakan slammed the cup on the table. "Women of age do not simply roam here and there. They must prepare themselves for the clan. But your Onichan isn't fit for that role, so she should make herself useful by getting married into a good family, not by roaming the village and bringing dishonor. Hanabi was shocked by Hakon's tone. She couldn't bear to see her sister being insulted in front of the clan. Arigato Obasan, she said, but no one asked for your life experiences. Hakon flinched and silence spread the hall. Hyuga Heishi slammed his fist on the table. Get out, Hanabi. Hanabi paled. But father. I said get out. Hanabi slammed the door in arrogance and went outside the mansion. Her father turned out to be a coward who couldn't even defend his own blood against a woman who reeked of ego and attitude. What a warm welcome I received from your youngest, Heishi. Hanabi was not like Hinata or Hitomi. Hakon knew what he meant. Hanabi wasn't the type to sit back and take insults like her former daughter-in-law or her granddaughter would. Still, you managed to raise one like your dead wife and another like a stubborn brat. I am so proud that my son has given the Hyuga clan 2 gems to lead it. As Hiyashi looked towards the garden through the window on his left, he could see his mother getting on his nerves. Hanabi will lead the clan, he said. Hakon laughed. With that tongue of hers, she would fall straight into a pit. That's my responsibility, mother. You don't have to worry about that. And your eldest? I have asked her to choose her path. Are you dumb, Heishi? Heishi glanced at his mother with questioning eyes. Get her married off to a powerful clan instead of wasting time, she will turn out to be like Hitomi. I myself don't know how I managed to clear that menace. Heishi got up abruptly, causing Hakon to stop in between. He motioned all the servants to leave immediately. He glanced down at the only person who ruined everything for him. I wish to rest, Okasama. Is there anything else? Hakon got up as she adjusted her gray kimono. Next time I come here, it better be what I want. Otherwise, I will decide the future of this clan. Heishi knew that this time it wasn't a mere reply, it was a warning. Naruto Nichan. Naruto choked on his super hot spicy ramen hearing the screeching voice of Kanhamaru. The boy ran straight to the table with big bright eyes. Naruto cried internally as he realized he would have to share his favorite ramen with this idiot. Kanhamaru sat next to Naruto and gazed at the ramen hungrily. When he tried to take a noodle strand, Naruto pinched him. Oh ouch. Baka. Go buy one. This is mine. Ni-chan. Naruto gazed at him for a while and then nodded. Kanhamaru grabbed a new pair of chopsticks and dug a huge amount of the ramen noodles. Baka. Not fair. Kanhamaru laughed as he chewed the noodles. Naruto covered the bowl with his hands to prevent more stealing of his super hot spicy ramen. Ni-chan. No, Kanhamaru, that's enough, this is mine. No, Ni-chan, I want your help. Naruto stopped eating and looked at him confused. I want some dating tips. Naruto spat his ramen and jumped excitedly. Wait. You want to date someone, Dadbyu Kanhamaru? Kanhamaru waved his hands at him for clarifying. Not me, Ni-chan. Naruto's smile dropped. Then who? Ouch. Kanhamaru slammed a hand over his mouth as he remembered Hanabi's death threat. If Naruto Ni-chan gets to know this, then he would be dead. Baka. Tell fast, my ramen is getting cold. My classmate is dating a boy, but we don't trust that guy. We want to find out if he loves her, Ni-chan. Naruto's eyes bulged at this. So you want my help? Yes, Ni-chan. Okay. I will help you with everything that a man needs to know if he is in love with a woman. Naruto smiled confidently at Kanhamaru. After a half an hour of discussion, finally Kanhamaru noted everything to ask Uchiha-san. Kanhamaru, if he answers all these correctly, then he loves her. Kanhamaru didn't really believe that. His gut was telling him something was wrong. Anyo, Ni-chan, how will asking this tell that he loves her? Baka. If a boy loves a girl, he will know all this for sure. How do you know, Ni-chan? Are you asking the great Naruto, whose teacher was the legendary Jiraiya? Ni-chan, You are the best. Naruto bumped his fist with him, Dadbayu. Kanhamaru's doubts were cleared as he thanked Naruto Ni-chan for the help. He hugged his book tightly because with these questions for Uchiha-san and Hinata-san, he could impress Hanabi and make her fall for him. Dot, 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 dot. Street lamps flicker to life, casting pools of light onto the street. The sun prepares to set as the sky softens into a shade of pink and gold. Sasuke watches the gradual shift from day to night as he stood opposite to the Konoha bakery. He was brought back to his senses when he smelled lilac and lavender. He turned back and saw the one whom he was waiting for had finally come. Hyuga. Sasuke-san. Hinata smiled at him. She had doubted that he wouldn't come, but she felt guilty for thinking like that. He looked good and different. Her eyes scanned the blue robe he chose to wear today, and it was a new change to his look. She smiled to her herself as he had unintentionally matched with her light blue dress. Sasuke watched her smile again at her own thoughts. Hinata. Gomen. Hi. He extended his hand towards her and she gladly held it. Sasuke raised his eyebrow. I expected you to fluster and faint. Hinata blushed. You have a good impression of me, Sasuke-san. Sasuke smirked as he held her hand tight. It's Sasuke, Hinata. Just Sasuke. Hinata blushed bright red. I guess giving you that book was a big mistake, Sasuke. Sasuke chuckled. Oh yes, you are so going to regret it, Hina. Unknown to them, two heads poked out from the side of the Konoha bakery as they strained their ears to hear properly. One with a pair of binoculars and another with Byakugan. Dot. Can you hear anything? No, but they look like they are in some other world. The second heir to the Hyuga clan bit her lip in frustration as she watched her sister giggling and blushing at the Uchiha. That damn Uchiha is already flirting with my innocent Nichan. I will air fry him today. Quote. Hana. Hanabi. Hanabi blinked as she heard a voice calling her. Kanhamaru glanced at her with a questioning look. What should we do now? Spy or fry? Hanabi nodded as the corners of her mouth lifted to reveal a sly smirk. Let's go inside and wait. Kanhamaru gulped. Yes. Sasuke held Hinata's hand as he walked into the bakery. The aroma of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries immediately enveloped him. Hyugas love pastries, huh? Worn wooden floors and the golden glow from the dim lights. How long had it been since he visited a bakery? He almost failed to recognize the fragrance of vanilla, butter and cinnamon. A small tug on his hand pulled him back from his thoughts. Sasuke looked at the direction Hinata was walking towards. There at the cornermost table were two kids. Sasuke was confused until he saw white eyes like Hinata's looking at him. No staring at him. No, it was glaring. Sasuke smirked. Her sister appeared to be a brat, and if there was a job he certainly enjoyed apart from killing, then it is pissing off brats. This is going to be entertaining. Hinata took a seat, exchanging nervous smiles with Hanabi and her friend Konohamaru. She asked, Hanabi-chan, did you wait for long? Hanabi, still glaring at Sasuke, replied with a hint of annoyance, yes, but you could have come earlier if your boyfriend had learned to keep his hands to himself in front of the shop. Hinata was taken aback by her sister's rude reply. Her cheeks flushed as she looked between Hanabi and Sasuke. Hana-chan, what? Before Hinata could finish her flustered statement, Sasuke interjected with a sly grin, well, if you weren't such a brat, maybe you wouldn't be waiting around so much. Hanabi seemed ready to snap back at Sasuke until the waiter arrived, interrupting the escalating tension. Hinata quickly sat down and nudged Sasuke to do the same. Hanabi took a sip of water, eyeing Sasuke as he smirked. This guy is going to be hella hard to crack, she thought. Deciding to up her game, she leaned toward Konohamaru and whispered, he is already getting on my nerves. Konohamaru, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, nodded nervously. Hinata, trying to ease the tension, introduced the group. I know you are familiar with him, but let me introduce. Hanabi, Konohamaru, this is Sasuke. And Sasuke, meet my sister and her friend. Hanabi crossed her arms, and Konohamaru offered a nervous smile. Sasuke nodded at both of them. So, how did you meet my sister, Uchiha-san? Hanabi asked Sasuke. Sasuke, with a mischievous glint in his eye, replied, I found her in my room. The statement caught everyone off guard. Hinata tried to cover. What he means is that I went to look for him because he had to report at the Hokage's office. Hanabi, suspiciously eyeing her sister, shifted the focus. So, what do you feel about my Onisan? Hinata prayed that Sasuke wouldn't mess this up. It was as if gods decided to remain deaf to her prayers. Meanwhile, Sasuke forgot what he was supposed to say. He had learned in the book that, you should compliment your girlfriend in front of others. What compliments should I give? Okay. Nice. Wonderful. Mind-blowing. Oh it. Sasuke replied, I feel like shit. Wait, what? Hanabi spat her tea while Konohamaru's jaw dropped. Hinata sat like a frozen wooden log. Sasuke bit his tongue for letting him get ahead of his intrusive of thoughts. He quickly fixed it with, I feel like shit if she is not with me. The awkward silence that followed Sasuke's unexpected response was broken by Hinata's attempts to salvage the situation. Ah, what he means is, he values our time together a lot, and, he appreciates our companionship. Hanabi raised an eyebrow, still recovering from the tea incident. That's the weirdest compliment I've ever heard, Onisan. Sasuke, realizing he needed to do damage control, added with a smirk, well, I've always been straightforward. No need for sugarcoating. Hinata, feeling the need to redirect the conversation, said, so, how have you two been? Anything new? Hanabi, still giving Sasuke a suspicious glance, replied, just the usual. Konohamaru here is still struggling with his ninja techniques, and I've been assigned a new mission. Konohamaru, seizing the opportunity to steer the conversation away, chimed in, yeah, it's tough Hinata-san. How is your life Sasuke-san? Hinata nudged him and he decided to play along. It was fine until I had to put up with some brats. Hanabi's eyebrow twitched at what the Uchiha said. She was about to snicker when, Hinata said, why don't we order something to eat, Hana-chan? Cinnamon rolls maybe. Yeah, maybe stuff that can be put into your boyfriend's mouth to keep him shut, Hanabi retorted. A vein popped on Sasuke's forehead, you have a problem. With me. What are your intentions behind dating my sister? I don't need to convince little brats. For the last time, I have a name and that's Hanabi. I couldn't care less. OYAA, you don't even care to know about your girlfriend's family. I'm dating her, not her family. You make it sound like you know everything about her. So what? Sasuke, Hanabi please stop. Everyone is staring at us, said the eldest Hyuga as she was mentally panicking. Hanabi and Sasuke were behaving like a bunch of kids and now she had lost her mind too. Hana-chan, Sasuke is my boyfriend and you do not need to be defensive around him. Hanabi silenced herself and was about to apologize when she saw Sasuke's deviant smirk. She clenched her jaw at him. It was obvious he was having fun watching how her older sister was scolding her. Hanabi nudged Konohamaru to prompt him to ask what he prepared. The boy fumbled to open a small notepad and then quickly closed it. Sasuke-san, if you answer these questions, I think you can convince Hanabi-chan. The fake couple was intrigued at what Konohamaru just said. Sasuke accepted the challenge and was ready for the questions, but Hinata was again panicking. Konohamaru opened his notes that he prepare after Naruto's coaching. He mentally gave a prayer and started his work. Hinata-san's favorite color. Lilac. Favorite food. Cinnamon rolls. Favorite flowers. Sunflowers. Favorite hobby. Gardening. Hinata smiled and was proud that Sasuke was doing a great job at memorizing her favorites. This was going good. Just when she decided to relax her shoulders, little did she know that soon a bomb question was going to be dropped. Favorite weather? Winter. Favorite underwear color? Hanabi, caught off guard, involuntarily spat her tea for the second time that day, biting her tongue in disbelief. Sasuke remained stoic as ever, resembling a stone statue, while Hinata, her face flushed with embarrassment, seemed to emit visible steam. Stammering, Konohamaru attempted a feeble defense. Wa-e, Hana. It's red. 3 pairs of eyes blinked at what Sasuke said. Hinata screamed in embarrassment. Sasuke. Hanabi, on the brink of unleashing her wrath upon Konohamaru, shifted her focus towards Sasuke. What the hell did you just say? She demanded. Well, I know everything about Hinata. Konohamaru stood up and decided to apologize the nonsensical question he posed. He should have thought twice before believing his blonde role model's words blindly and writing it down. I'm sorry, Naruto Oji-san said the best way a man knows his girl is by knowing their favorite underwear color, Hanabi-chan. Hanabi just face-palmed herself. Why do I get to deal with such dumbs? If brats don't mind their business, then they get a great deal of dumbs. Uchiha, why you? Enough both of you. Hinata slammed her hand on the table. She was angry that both of them couldn't get along even though her face dusted with pink after the embarrassment. All you both have done here today is pick fights with each other. This wasn't what I wanted. Oni-cha, Gomen. But I can't trust. Respected Hanabi. I chose him. Hanabi looked down and then over to Sasuke. He no longer looked like he had a smug face. Okay. I will accept only if he answers my last question. Sasuke raised his eyebrow. Now he wanted to what was the next stupid stuff this brat was going to brew. Hanabi locked her eyes with the Uchiha. Straightening her back, she asked, her voice laced with concern and seriousness, if my father and the Hyuga Council does shit with my Nei-san, what will you do? You can't have Kakashi, Naruto or any other interferences as answer. Hana-chan, what question is this? Even before Hinata could complete, Sasuke said, I'm a man, Hanabi. I don't care who stands in front of me or with me. If they do shit with my woman, I'll beat the shit out of them and burn them to ashes. Quote. Something flickered in Hinata's heart. It felt like time stopped for her because those words that the man beside her said was enough to make her heart beat faster. Hinata almost had tears in her eyes because her entire life she was just an option for other people, and here this guy who the entire world was afraid of said, she meant the world to him. Sasuke turned his head and he found a pair of pearl eyes looking at him affectionately. He smiled at her and held her hand. He didn't know why, but he felt like he would tear apart the world for this woman. He didn't care if it is a fake setup because for the last few days, if there was someone who treated him just like mere person, then it was her. Perfect. I'm with you, Uchiha. All three looked at Hanabi with intriguing eyes. Well, it was a surprise, because the girl who refused to acknowledge the Sharingan user was now supporting him. Hanabi giggled and said, why are you guys so hostile? I'm serious. Onisan finally knows how to choose, and I'm happy she chose someone who knows her worth. Hinata couldn't contain her tears. Hana-chan. Sasuke had a smug face and smiled coyly. Well, wouldn't hurt to have a bull-headed sister-in-law. Well, what can I say if my sister chose a guy who has a stick up his ass face? You little piece of. Quote. There they went at it again, pulling each other's leg. Hinata laughed while Konohamaru tried to intervene. Sasuke and Hinata walked back after their meet with Hanabi and Konohamaru. The breeze was strong and Hinata's hat was about to fly away, but Sasuke caught to it. It was awkward for both of them because a lot happened in the bakery, but Hinata took it in her hands to thank him for doing all this just to convince her little sister. Sasuke, thank you for doing this. I know you had better things to do today. Sasuke glanced at her and then looked ahead as they walked towards their homes. Well, if sleeping, Cursing or boozing are considered to be better things. Hinata laughed. Sasuke's sense of humor was way too peculiar, but it always brought a smile to her face. There was this one thing that has been bothering her ever since Konohamaru asked that embarrassing question. And no, Sasuke, how did you know? Know what? Hinata's cheeks were beet red while Sasuke stopped in his tracks with his one eyebrow perched up. That it is red. Sasuke started laughing when he understood what she meant. For the first time, Hinata stood watching the Uchiha laugh. He was laughing and it was an odd sight. An unusual sight, yet his laugh was oddly comforting and beautiful to watch. Sasu. Okay. I didn't know Hinata, I just bluffed. Hinata was shocked and now she was on the verge of collapsing from embarrassment. As she thought this couldn't get even better, Sasuke leaned in as if to whisper softly, but now I know it is red. Hinata wanted the ground to open up and swallow her. She just fell straight into the trap she laid for him. She covered her face with her hands because her face looked like a hot lava mess. She watched the raven-haired culprit, who was responsible for her red face, walk ahead with a smug face. Sasuke, you are going to be the end of me. ... Unknown to them, a blonde girl watched as the two of them walked together, one smiling and other blushing. OMG, this is crazy as. Sasuke and Hinata. ... I lost again. Man. Shikamaru sighed, eyeing the shogi board. It was the 5th time his friend said that today. Choji, feeling the same old frustration, stopped Shikamaru from rearranging the pieces. I don't want to play another losing match, Shikamaru. Aren't you bored? Shikamaru glanced up at the clouds, a lazy smile forming. It's bothersome, but watching you lose every time is kind of interesting. Choji sighed heavily. Shikamaru's thought process was beyond him. Looking around for a distraction, Choji spotted Ino and grinned. Hey, Anu, come here. Ino trotted over, bursting with excitement. Choji, Shikamaru, what a surprise. I have some awesome news. Shikamaru ran a hand over his head, bracing himself for Ino's energy. This better be good, he muttered. Ino gave him a playful glare. Looks like a certain bothersome guy doesn't want to hear what this beautiful intellectual girl has to say, she teased, batting her eyelashes dramatically. Choji, thankful for the distraction, leaned forward. I want to know, Ino. What's the news? Ino's eyes sparkled. It's about 2 people you'd never guess. I had to clean my eyes twice and pinch myself to believe what I saw. Now even Shikamaru was curious. Go on, then. What's the hold up? Ino grinned mischievously. Not so fast. What will you buy me? Choji groaned. A date with Shikamaru, he said, half joking. Shikamaru blinked in surprise. What? Ino laughed, winking at Shikamaru. A date with a bothersome guy. Sounds intriguing. Is the news really worth a date with me? Shikamaru asked, skeptical. Absolutely, Shika. Guess who? Before Shikamaru could speak, Choji blurted out, Kakashi and Tsunade. Ew. No, Ino cringed. Then, Lee and Sakura. Pigs would fly, Choji. Shikamaru chuckled, sipping his tea. But he nearly choked when Ino dropped the bombshell. It's Sasuke and Hinata, guys. Choji's eyes widened. What? Ino, you must be kidding. Ino shook her head confidently. Nope. My facts are always true. I saw them walking really close together. How close? Choji asked, leaning in. This close. I'm sure they're seeing each other. Sasuke was laughing, Hinata was blushing, and they were walking back from Konoha Cafe in matching clothes. What does that tell you? Choji mimicked her question, earning a playful smack. They're dating, obviously. Choji winced but persisted. Just because they were walking on a road that leads to a cafe doesn't mean they were on a date. Ino sighed dramatically. Choji, intelligent people know it better. Still don't believe me? Ask Mr. Bothersome. Shikamaru shrugged. Doesn't surprise me, he admitted, realizing he was caught in the middle of Ino's trap. Ino smirked triumphantly. Shika, you knew it, didn't you? Spill it. Even Choji was giving him an expectant look. Shikamaru sighed. Fine. I saw them when I came back from my last mission at night. Ino gasped, and Choji leaned in closer. Where? When? How? Shikamaru kept it vague, knowing the full truth would cause chaos. If Ino ever got to know that he saw Hinata walking out of Sasuke's house wearing the Uchiha's shirt, then all hell will break loose. I don't know all the details. But yeah, they seemed close. Ino's grin widened. Choji, Hinata must have met Sasuke at his place or nearby. Late night encounters at his house, plus what I saw today, perfect. Time to spread the word. Even before the two male ninjas could react, Ino stood up and waved goodbye. See you tomorrow at 9 for our date, Shikamaru, Mawa. She called, winking. Choji laughed as Shikamaru's cheeks turned red. Well, nobody can beat Ino, not even you, Shikamaru. Dot, 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 dot. Neji had his left eyebrow twitching as he heard what the trio talked about. Hinata-sama and that bastard. A ing joke. He lost a bet with Hanabi, so he went to bring ramen from Chuki's shop, but a conversation of his fellow teammates made him overhear the news of his Hinata-sama giggling with that Uchiha. No way would he let his innocent cousin into a narcissist house. Neji threw the bag of ramen and marched into the Uchiha district. It was now either him or that manipulating bastard. He walked into the Uchiha's porch and knocked thrice. Wait. Neji Hyuga, the Hyuga prodigy, is waiting for some Uchiha to open the door. Smirking, Neji went 3 steps behind and then kicked the front door open. The door flung away and the wall opposite to it also broke apart. A huge growl was heard that nearly looked like that from a wounded tiger. Those white Hyuga eyes could see a shadow lurking not far away from him, radiating red light. What the is with Hyugas and their obsession at showing up at my house? Neji raised his eyebrow at the obvious confusion. Which other Hyuga even wants to see your face, Uchiha? Well, your baby cousin wants more than my face, asshole. What the did you say? Hinata and me sitting on a tree. Neji lunged a punch at Sasuke, to which the latter smirked. His eyes darkened as he felt his lip burst from the impact. Not bad, Hyuga, but I'll break your face for breaking my house. And then it was a total mess. Hyuga Heishi was in an absolute confusion when he heard that his nephew went to pick up a fight with Uchiha Sasuke. He was even more perplexed when he saw his eldest daughter restricting him or his clan from interfering. Rather than that, Hinata insisted to go and resolve the issue while Hanabi decided to go along as well. Hiyashi watched as the drama well crafted by his daughters unfolded before him. There was a significant amount of concern evident on his eldest daughter's face, each time he or somebody else mentioned the Uchiha's name. Meanwhile, Hanabi was pacing around with excitement to know who was going to win the battle. It looked his youngest daughter was a lot more bothered by the fight going on. It didn't take long for him to understand that there was something going on between all 4 that he shouldn't know. In the past 5 decades of his life, he had learned the truth that Byakugan wielders can never lie, and it can only be found through their eyes. Byakugan is the mirror to the soul. So fooling him was a near to impossible task. Heishi restricted his urge to spy on the 4 to know what is going on. Well, nobody would know, but his Hyuga pride would never allow him to submit to that level. Hence, the Hyuga leader decided to wait for his daughters and Neji to whip out the reason behind the entire Uchiha chaos. Hinata's heart nearly leapt out of her chest when she heard her cousin started a fight with Sasuke. Why would Ni-san do that? Are they hurt? Did Sasuke start it? What if? Stop, Ni-chan. I'm sure they are fine. We will reach now. Hinata nodded, leaping towards the direction of Sasuke's apartment. She had to get there before anybody else could, or even before it gets worse. After they finally reached, and Hinata couldn't believe that Sasuke's entire door and wall was destroyed completely. She and Hanabi ran frantically inside and gasped at the sight before them. Neji and Sasuke was wounded very badly and the apartment was merely reduced to shambles. It was just bricks and dust. They looked like they were going for another round of beating when both the female Hyuga pulled them out. Hinata was stressed out looking at Sasuke and Neji's condition. Neji had tore his cheek while Sasuke was bleeding from his head. Their knuckles were almost bloody blue from the constant beating. Neji pulled away from Hanabi and screamed, "Uchiha, if you are a man then come back here and fight." Sasuke hearing that lost it again and said, "Ah, little Ojo-sama wants another round of beating." Hanabi screamed, "Enough with this shit. Who started this?" Neji grunted as a response, "I heard this was near Hinata-sama." Hinata sighed, "Ni-san, even if I was, why would you destroy Sasuke's house?" "Hinata-sama, he said shitty things about you and him." Even before Neji could complete the sentence, he saw Sasuke smirking and then scooting closer to Hinata and laying his head on her shoulder. "You ing Uchiha, I will castrate you." Hanabi dragged Neji out while she mouthed to Hinata to take Sasuke to hospital. Hinata nodded at the message. Sasuke sighed, "Your cousin is a ing psycho." Hinata glared at Sasuke, "You do things that make him one." Sasuke chuckled but hissed as blood came out of his mouth. Hinata quickly wiped the blood and started healing Sasuke. "I can't heal broken bones, it takes a lot of chakra. We need to go to the hospital." Sasuke refused to go to hospital. "It's just 2 to 3 bones, it will heal later on." "I couldn't care less. If you don't come to the hospital, then I will lock your chakra points and take you to the hospital. Do you want that?" Sasuke looked at Hinata astonished at those words from her mouth. "Threatening an Uchiha?" Sasuke smirked. "Do Hyugas have a thing for threatening me?" Hinata blushed lightly. "Wouldn't be needed if you hadn't been a stubborn ass. Now let's go to the hospital." Quote, "Yes ma'am, I'll follow you to the ends of earth." Hinata giggled hearing Sasuke's reply as they both walked towards the hospital. Naruto gulped down the tasty hot ramen noodles. Man, they hit different after an exhaustive day of paperworks. Tsuki came with a second hot bowl of ramen. Naruto got so excited seeing the second bowl of ramen that he almost choked on the noodles in his mouth. Tsuki laughed at Naruto's overexcitement for his ramen noodles. "Naruto, eat slowly kid. All these are for you." Naruto blushed over the embarrassment that he rubbed the back of his head with his hand. "Days are tiring but the only thing that keeps me going is your super ramen Tsuki Ohi-san." Tsuki laughed at the compliment and then he placed the second bowl in front of Naruto. "I'm glad you are happy because I heard your friends Hinata-san and Uchiha-san are together. Now you should also find someone for yourself. Maybe bring them for a date here, ha ha. Naruto froze hearing about Hinata and Sasuke. He looked at Tsuki again but the man was busy blabbering about some stuff. Hinata-chan and Tem. When did that happen? Why was he supposed to know from a ramen shop owner? Did Hinata forget everything between them so easily? Naruto lost his mind as a million questions ran through his head. Out of all the people Hinata could find, she got together with Sasuke. His best friend. It pierced through his heart because that one girl whom he kind of hurt, went on to get together with his best friend. The blonde-haired ninja stood up abruptly from his seat. He ignored the calls of Tsuki from the back as he walked out following the chakra of Hinata. He couldn't lose her just like that. Not again. Not even to Tem.